Well, today is kind of a big day. So today we are actually starting to move off of the boat. I'm Taryn, this is Logan, and this is Max. Our life rarely goes as planned, and this story is no different. But we are determined to rebuild our beautiful steel boat, even stronger than she was before. And we're bringing you along with us. Alright, so if you're new here, let me set the scene for you. We are currently in Nanaimo, BC, Canada. About to haul out our 40-foot steel sailboat named Paparumba because we have some large projects to do on her, including rebuilding the chain locker and the bulwarks. This video is coming to you 5 months after the haul out, so obviously a lot has been done since. But I'm here to let you know that we are, in real time, still into some big projects and things got pretty complicated and big. Unexpected changes were made, but we will get to that in further episodes. If you're interested in seeing where we are in real time, you can always join us on Patreon. But let's get back to October. It's Sunday, and we haul out on Wednesday, and it's also Thanksgiving, which means that there's a bunch of family stuff going on this weekend. Today is the first day of transferring things from the boat to Logan's brother's house where we are going to live for the winter. They have a massive house, and we kind of almost get our own suite on the top level. So that's where we're going to be for the winter. Staying because we don't want to live on the boat while we're doing all these boat projects. So yeah, we're starting to clean out the boat and move all of our stuff there, which is really weird. I'm not stoked. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't want to be back on land living in one place. I want to be out on the water exploring, but obviously we need to do these projects in order for that to be a reality, so I'm not mad about it. I'm just not super excited about not living on the boat anymore. So yeah, that's what we're doing. There's a lot of stuff. Like, we've got essentially a house worth of stuff on this boat, minus obviously furniture, because the furniture's built in and we don't have to move that. But we've got all of our clothing, we've got all my plants, and I'm going to revamp all of the plants that I have on here so that next year I can learn from the lessons I learned this year and I can have more food plants on board, I guess, that actually produce. So yeah, anyway, a lot gonna go on this winter, and this is the beginning of it. What do you think, Max? Are you excited? Are you excited about going to live on land again? Are you a good boy? Is there somebody looking at our boat outside? Yeah? Oh, good dog. Good dog.
Just left the marina and we're heading over to the boat lift at Newcastle, and we're gonna get lifted out. And it was a beautiful sunny day with no wind, and that is it's a little bit windy now and it's cold, not sunny.
Overcast for sure. Some gnarly clouds on the horizon.
Yeah, the rain wasn't supposed to start till tomorrow, but it is looking like it's gonna rain. So hopefully we can get the boat hauled before that happens. That would be ideal.
Max, what do you smell? What is it? We hauled out at Newcastle Marina in Nanaimo, which we have nothing but great things to say about. The staff are super nice, rates are reasonable, and the boatyard guys are knowledgeable. After a year in the water, we had zero hard growth in the areas with bottom paint, and we had just a light layer of sludgy soft growth over the bottom. The bottom paint we used was International Semi-Ablative. And just like that, she's out of the water again. and it feels oddly familiar and comfortable to be in a boatyard, so I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I guess it makes sense after spending 4 months in the boatyard with Nordic 5. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this is our second chain locker rebuild in as many years. Last year around this time we had just gone back in the water after spending 4 months living on our previous boat in the boatyard while we rebuilt the chain locker. You might have seen those episodes. Then we sold her and bought this beautiful boat. But there are a few differences with this chain locker rebuild. For one thing, this will be a steel rebuild instead of a fiberglass one. For another, we know the rest of the boat is strong and in good shape. With the last boat, the chain locker was just one of many issues, and even after tackling all those issues, she still wouldn't have been in the shape we needed hers to sail where we want to. And, as we mentioned, we aren't living on board this time, which will make a huge difference in our sanity. So far, no surprises. She's looking super good. The bottom actually has 13 months on that anti-foul, and there's nothing but just like a slime layer on it, like no growth where the anti-foul is. No hard growth, so that's amazing. So yeah, we're actually pretty excited and pretty happy right now. I'm not sure how our depth sounder was still working with these barnacles trying to smother it, but it was. Alright, so we're gonna try to drop the head sail before the wind picks up and the rain starts. So, here we go. The sails all came down easily, but neatly folding them on deck was another story. I think we refolded the head sail 3 times before we were able to get it to fold neatly enough to fit inside the bag. Alright, so today is day number 1 of proper boat projects. So over the past few days we did our best to gut the boat. We got most of the stuff out, tools and stuff, and I don't know, a bunch of other random things are still on here. But all the mattresses are off, cushions, all of our living stuff, some dishes. And Logan took off the windlass and dropped all the chain and the anchor. You can see the windlass there. So today we're not actually starting on the chain locker directly. Today we're going to start in the v-berth, taking all the nice wood siding off. Decommissioning my pretty boat. So we've got to do that because obviously when you weld you add a lot of heat. And we don't want to accidentally light a fire on this side of the boat because we didn't clear it out and ended up with too much heat and it lit something on fire on the opposite side of the metal that we're working on. So we gotta take all that wood off so that we can actually see what's behind as we're working. And yeah, once that's done, then Logan's got to fix the compressor that we're borrowing from his uncle so that we can do some compressor stuff. And by compressor stuff I mean so that we can use the needle gun to get all the paint off of the inside of the chain locker before we actually start cutting metal out and welding new metal in. So yeah, that's our first 2 projects.
We're gonna have to remove all of this and all of these on both sides, and possibly this. Well, definitely this.
The whole
framework and everything.
The whole framework. Oh man, so much.
Because behind here is a sheet of plywood, behind the plywood is spray foam.
And what's the issue with spray foam?
It lights on fire. So we have to remove it all. You can see the rust stains down there, so obviously there's been some rusty water somehow getting into there.
At some point.
So we gotta scrape that all back and have a look.
Fun times for everyone.
But before we do any of that, we gotta pull these wires all back through. and they're all epoxied in, so.
In order to get all the wood out, each wood bung needed to be drilled out and each screw behind it removed, all while trying to do as little damage to the wood as possible so we could reuse it.
Nice!
Awesome!
So, that's what you can do in your spare time.
Yay! Oh man. We are definitely not experts at this, but Sailing Magic Carpet has a great video where Aladino explains his process, and if you want to learn more, I suggest checking that video out. So while I'm in here drilling out all those bungs and pulling those screws out, Marty's actually come to help us for the day, and him and Logan are trying to tarp in the front of the boat. How's it going out here now? We've got a hole in the tarp.
Yeah, we're working at it.
Hello.
Hey.
Getting the first board off of each side proved to be more difficult than I expected it to be. So it looks like some of this is like siliconed on, but I can't see it. All I know is that when I stick the paint thingy, whatever the hell you call this thing, when I stick it in between the cracks, it grabs on to some kind of like Sikaflex or something under there. In some places, not in everywhere, just in some places. So I have no idea what's going on, but this is not going to be easy to get off, that's for sure. We also didn't really have proper tools for removing pieces of wood without damaging the wood or the tools. Huh. Cool. I just said cool, but what I really meant was, yay, I'm finally getting somewhere! There we go. That did the trick. Whew. The process was a series of messing around and trial and error that continuously reminded me of why I choose to work with metal instead of wood whenever possible. Alright, hopefully the camera focuses on my face. Sorry about the lighting in here, there's not much I can do, unfortunately. I've turned on every light in here, and they're just dark. So I've been using my headlamp to see all of the little screw holes. It's day 2 working on decommissioning and taking all the wood off, and for some reason the starboard side here is a lot harder than the port side. I don't know why. It's like different material was used for the bungs or something. So it's harder to drill out, it's harder to get the screws out. A lot more of them are like stripped in the plywood. So it's gone a lot slower, but yeah. So I'm here today, obviously. Logan is working on getting the compressor going so that we can start needle gunning the chain locker and taking paint off so that we can cut stuff out of the chain locker and start welding that back together. And I'm just plugging away at trying to get all these screws out and all the wood off. It's not a small project. So we're doing all this in the v-berth mostly so that we can get the bulkhead free and clear so that if we need to weld on the bulkhead, we're not lighting anything on fire. But we also need to take all the insulation off the top, like 6 inches all the way around the boat, because we're replacing all of the bulwarks, which is like that little kind of bit of metal that sticks up all the way along, because it's not really a little bit of metal, it's like square tubing and it's rusted from the inside out. Yeah, the plan is to take all that off as well, and then we gotta weld in new tabs, which we can't do if there's insulation right beneath it, because the insulation will melt and light on fire, and then the boat might light on fire. So yeah, turns out that this project is not actually easier. You can't just, we're not just welding stuff on, we're decommissioning a good chunk of the boat in order to weld stuff back on. So fiberglass probably would have been easier in this case, but also not as much fun. I'd still rather do metal work. Quite a few of the screws on the starboard side had stripped due to moisture because of poor insulation, and that made taking the boards off a lot more difficult. Alright, so I finally have the 2 sides pretty much done. That second side was miserable, but I did it. It took me hours. So now I gotta take the railing off from around the shelf and figure out how to get the shelves off, and then take off the rest of those pieces and then pull plywood off, I guess. So the other thing is, we're not sure if the plywood is epoxied on or just screwed in. So that's going to be another question of how we're going to get that off once we get there. Hopefully it's just screwed in. Alright, so we've actually spent the last week at Logan's parents' property building a trailer and trying to get the compressor ready. But I think, if I remember correctly, where I left off, I told you guys that we'd kind of run into a snag in the v-berth here, trying to get the wood off the walls. So in here, everything is very well glued, and we're at a point where we're having a really hard time getting this shelf off, which we need to get off before we can get the rest of the stuff off. My task for today is to try to get this wooden shelf off without completely destroying the teak, because we don't want to have to buy new teak to put new teak on. And I'm really not looking forward to it. It's not going to be an easy job. Logan tried to and got nowhere, so reality's a boat life. Maybe we'll end up with cedar in here instead of teak. Oh my god. We'll see how it goes anyway. I damaged the wood more than I would have liked during this process, but I can't tell you how satisfying it was every time one of those screws came out. I removed all of the bungs and screws from the railing around the shelf, but that was all I was able to do with how well glued on the railing was. Well, that's it for the first installment of v-berth decommissioning. Next week we show you more of the chain locker and the scope of our project before having to make a big decision.
It's a huge job, but I think it's our only option.
Thanks so much for joining us, and let us know in the comments any tips or tricks you have for working with pesky wood and screws. See you next week.